Now that we've added a spinner and also a progress bar, let's make it possible to toggle them off and on. Since we're not using any real API or data requests in this application, which is when you typically use a spinner or a progress bar to show the background activity, we'll add a couple Angular Material slide toggles so we can manually control them. We'll place two Angular Material slide toggles within the bottom of this settings panel, and they'll allow us to enable and disable the spinner and progress bar anytime. The first thing we'll do is we'll add in the two slide toggles within the settings panel. Then we'll connect their functionality using the existing loader service that comes with this repo. As usual, we'll begin by reviewing the documentation. Inside of the slide toggle component, here's a really good example we'll implement in this video. We'll have the text show up to the left of our toggle option. To implement this, we'll use the mat slide toggle element, and then we'll use the property called label position and set it to before. If you're ever wondering what values you can enter into any property, you could always search for it. If you copy the label position, then go to the API, then do a search, Control F in Windows, and I'll add that within label position within the search here. And then here it'll show you the values you could use within the label position property. If you plan on setting the text after, you don't have to use this label position property because it defaults to after. But we want it to show up before, so we'll add in the label position property and set it to before. But before we do that though, we need to implement our module. I'll go into the TS, copy this module here, and we'll import that within our pages component. Inside of our pages component TS file, we'll bring in our module, and then we'll add our mat slide toggle module to the imports array. And I'll add that towards the end of our mat button module. That's it for the changes within the TypeScript file. Now moving on to the HTML. We'll be adding our slide toggles to the settings panel. So I'll close down the section and then open up the settings panel. And we want to add our toggles, our slide toggles within these lists since we're already using these list items within our settings panel. And I'll copy this one right here. Then right towards the end within the mat list element, I'll create a new one and make sure I close it up correctly. Inside of here is where we'll add our toggle slide. So we're using the mat slide toggle, and then the label position, we're setting the text here before the slide toggle. And then this text here, I want to update this. We'll call it something like toggle progress spinner. And we'll need another one of these for the progress bar. I'll copy this and add it right below one we just created. Then update this from spinner to bar. Before we implement the functionality, let's check this in the browser and make sure that everything's working so far. And now if we go to the setting panels, you should have two slide toggles, and we do. They look good. Now we're ready to connect these to our loader service. If you're following along with the repository that was provided in this course, you should have a loader service. And this loader service you'll find within the services folder. And this is a very simple service. So all it does is it manages the state of the spinner and the progress bar. And by default, it's set to false. And I'm using the Angular signal to manage the state. And then we have a couple methods. This is how we set the spinner by calling the toggle spinner, passing in the Boolean, and then that's how we set it. And then if we want to read or get the spinner value to see if it's true or false, we just call on this. So basically to set it, you call this, and to get it, you call this. Very simple. I just added these couple methods down here. We're not going to be using these in this video. But these are nice to have if you want to stop everything or turn on everything at once without calling both of these methods. You could use these methods down here. To use this loader service, we need to make sure that we're pulling it into our TypeScript file. Let's double check that. And inside of the constructor, you should see this loader service being pulled into the constructor. And then it's being set to public. And the reason for that is so we could access this loader service from within our template. So you just want to double check your constructor and make sure you're bringing in the loader service. Now let's actually use the loader service from within our template. And we'll start off within our slide toggles. And what we'll do is we'll add a change event. If anything changes within this slide toggle, if the user interacts with this change event here will fire off, calling our load service, calling that method we were just looking at, the toggle spinner, passing in the Boolean. We'll do the same thing for the second slide toggle. I'll add in a change event. This almost does the same thing, but it calls the toggle progress bar instead. That's the only changes we need to make to the slide toggle. I'll put this on a new line so we can see everything. And let's add this to the end here. And we'll clean this one up as well. This is what you want your slide toggles to look like, the finished version. Now we'll close down the matte side nav here, and we'll open up our section. And now we want to update these if conditions here. Again, we'll call the load service, calling on the show spinner, that getter we have within our service. And I'm calling it like it's a function. The reason is it's actually a signal. So you got to call it like this, like it's a function. Then also I want to make sure I close it up correctly. Now we got to update the if condition for our progress bar. So I'll update this. So I'm calling the loader service, the show progress bar getter, and I'm calling it like it's a function. That's it for updating our template. Our slide toggles should be working now. Let's try it out. Now our progress bar is off by default. If we open up our settings, and we could turn our progress bar back on, that looks really good. And then also our spinner as well. And we could toggle that off as well. That wraps up Module 2. In the next video, let's do a quick recap on what we covered in this module.